Hello everyone, welcome to Master Stage, and today we'll discuss about the Telangana TET Social, and which is very important. Only the content is will be only in English. Okay, so I prepared nice PPT. It is prepared on the basis of SCERT textbooks Telangana from 6th standard to 10th standard. Okay, so this is my live class. Okay, if you are newly watching, please do subscribe and share with your friends. Okay, and like also. So, today the topic is Europe and Africa. So, we'll discuss about the physical and economic geography. Okay, like both the continent, like Europe and Africa. So we'll discuss about the landscapes, climates, people, and economies. So it is purely based on Telangana social textbooks, okay, which is published 2025-26. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, where is Europe? So, see, Europe is located North Hemisphere. Okay, here, so it is relatively small continent, but one of the most densely populated. That means have more population and well-developed countries. So the boundaries for this is a Europe. Okay, I hope you're able to see the same. Okay, Spain, France, Germany, Poland. Okay, Ukraine, Sweden, Finland. Okay, these are the things. Okay, the boundaries are at Arctic Sea in north, then Atlantic Ocean in the west side, and south the Mediterranean Sea, and east it is Asia separated by the Ural Mountains. So it is Europe is lies mostly in the temperate zone, so which gives very pleasant climate suitable for farming, settlement, and trade. Okay, this is about the Europe. So sometimes they may ask in the examination the boundaries of Europe. So north side is Arctic Ocean, west side is Atlantic Ocean. So south side is Mediterranean Sea, and east side is the Asia separated by Ural Mountain. So when you are watching this channel or when you're listening, just have the Europe map and African map, then that will be good. And you can check in our textbook also. I didn't miss any points. Okay. What are the physical features of Europe? So it has a great European plain and has good mountain ranges. Major rivers are there. Peninsula and islands are there. So the Europe is like stretched from France to Russia. So it is very flat and fertile land, ideal for farming and dense settlement. Europe, it is the this called as breadbasket region. Okay, so this is the thing. The mountains. So the mountains are Alps are the Europe's highest range. Okay, they may ask which is the highest range mountains. This Alps, the Pyrenees divide France and Spain. These mountains influence the climate and rivers. So major rivers in Europe. So Danube, it is the longest river, flows from almost 10 countries. These are the countries so through which this flows. What is the major river? It is the Danube. So the Rhine is also vital trade and transport in Western Europe. Then it has peninsulas islands. So Europe has many peninsulas like Scandinavians, so Albanian, so Italian. Then major islands include Britain, Ireland, Sicily, and Iceland. So the mountain range, Alps, so is the highest range. Okay, the Pyrenees, which is divides the France and Spain. So this influence the climate and rivers. This you have to remember. So if you want, you can have the screenshot. In order to have this PDF, you can WhatsApp me. Okay. Then climate of Europe. So it has there are three major climates in Europe. Okay, so marine climate, continental climate, and Mediterranean climates. Okay, marine climate found along with the western coastal. So mild summers and cool winters are there. Heavy rainfall throughout the year. It influenced by the warm Gulf Stream current from the Atlantic Ocean. Then continental climates, also which is found basically in inland like Eastern Europe, hot summers and very bitterly cold winters, low rainfall. So it influences ocean is weaker here, causing extreme temperature changes. Then Mediterranean climate. So it is founded in it is there we can found in Mediterranean Sea. Basically, the Mediterranean Sea climate, which is there in Italy, Greece, Spain, and hot dry summers, then mild wet winters. So ideal for growing grapes, olives, and citrus fruits. So they may ask in Mediterranean Sea which type of like plants grown, like or fruits, grapes, olives, and citrus fruits. Okay. So then forest and wildlife in Europe. Okay. So let me zoom here. Okay. So Europe's forest and mountains supported by diverse range of animals, through which many habitats have reduced due to urbanization. Nowadays, it is vanishing. The wildlife is vanishing slowly. So basically, the deer, it is there in common in temperate forest. Then fox, so it can be found across the Europe. Then brown bear in Scandinavia and Eastern Europe. Then wolf, the forest and mountain areas. Then golden eagle in mountain regions. These are the wildlifes in Europe. Then forest types. Okay, they may ask what are the different forest types. Okay, so it is coniferous taiga forest. So found in North Europe, like Norway, Sweden, Finland. Trees like pine, fir, and spruce, cold adapted evergreen here. There is a coniferous, a taiga forest, which is there in northern Europe. Then deciduous forest, so found in Central and Western Europe. So trees like oak, beech, and elm. So shade leaves in autumn are rich in biodiversity. So Mediterranean scrub, so low shrubs and drought-resistant plants along the southern coast. So it might be looking like reading. So but no option. Have this the content. Okay, where we have to listen again and again. While listening, you'll get it is going to be stored in your mind, and when you're writing the exam, that is easy for you to identify right answers. Okay, Europe has many national parks and wildfire reserves to protect the natural heritage. Then about the Europe population, we'll discuss. Almost 750 million population is there. So it is the most third most population continent, and 75% of the Europeans lives in cities and town, one of the highest urbanized rates in the world. So 99% people who are literate, highest literacy rate in globally. So this is the thing. Then so universal education system there here. Where do people live? So mostly it is very densest in Western Europe, countries like Germany. Okay, then kindly wait. Where the just wait. Yeah, yeah. Here the pointer I'm going to show. Okay, have patience. Okay, almost 75% people lives in towns and cities. So 99% people got literate, not like India. People mostly live in Western Europe, countries like Germany, France, UK, and Northern Ireland. Then Great Europe Plain support the highest density due to very fertile land is there and good transport system is there. Then quality of life. So they live in high standard living. So they have strong healthcare system, hospital and free education, social security is there. So they have the good infrastructures like bridges and transport system. So life expectancy also highest if you compare with the other continents like Asian and African countries. This is the population of the Europe. Okay, okay. Then agriculture in Europe. So sometimes they may ask in the TET examination, what is the major crops in Europe? So mostly they produce wheat. Okay, so staple crop, especially in France and Ukraine. Okay, nowadays war is going on. That's a different thing. Then barley. So barley they produce. It's for the animal feed, and a lot of beer is production takes place in Europe. Then oats in cooler northern region. Then grapes and olives in Mediterranean countries. So if you want to, you can take the screenshot, or I'll try to post this particular PPT in the description. Okay, once the class is over, I will do the same. Then here dairy farming. So it is a world leader in dairy farming like Netherlands, Denmark, Germany. So they produce large quantity of milk, butter, cheese, okay, and the climate is very cool and most climate ideal for the cattle rearing. Then merchandise from farming. So European agriculture highly uh, modernized and mechanized. Like they use tractors, harvesters. Okay, advanced irrigation system also is there. So due to which there is a lot of production increase while reducing the manual labor. Okay, that's the thing. And it goes to mineral and industries in Europe. So key minerals available here in coal mines in United Kingdom, Germany, Poland, so due to which this coal industrial revolution takes in place in UK and Germany. Then iron ore, so basically found in Sweden, France, Ukraine. So it is very essential for the steel. Then petroleum, so which will be found in North sea oil in UK and Norway. Then copper and zinc, so mined in Scandinavia. So these are the key minerals: coal, iron ore, petroleum, copper, and zinc. Then what are the major industries in Europe? Okay, uh, we have automobiles like the famous companies like BMW, Mercedes Benz, then France, Renault. So these are the basic famous companies worldwide. So the industries in Europe, then steel and machinery. So the major industry in UK, Germany, and Belgium. Then aerospace, France and UK airbase is the main thing. Chemicals and pharma, Switzerland, Germany. So you have to remember all this. Okay, this is the thing. Okay, minerals and Europe's industries in Europe. Then transport system and in Europe. So they have the three main ways: roadways, railways, and waterways and trade. So Europe has a good network of roadways. So extensive motorways and national highways is there, so which connected all the major cities. So Autobahn, Germany is the world famous for its engineering. Autobahn in Germany. So sometimes they may ask railways. So railways also they have the high speed trains like TGV France and ICE in Germany, like how we have Indian Railways, like that. So they have the channel tunnel links Britain and mainlands. Okay, you have to remember. Then waterways. So rivers like Rhine and Danube serves the major trade routes. So Rotterdam in famous, it is famous in Europe is one of the busiest port. So through this, Europe exports machinery vehicles and chemicals. So they import the raw material from the developing countries and food from the developed countries. This is the transport and trade in Europe. Simultaneously, I request you go through this particular Telangana textbooks from 6th and 10th standard in English medium. That will be good. If you are unable to purchase the books, just download the PDFs from the SCERT Telangana Social. You have to read the same. Okay, it is like guide from my side. Location of Africa. We discussed about the Europe. Now we'll have about the location of Africa. It is the second largest continent. Okay, so it has like 30.3 million square kilometers is there. So nearly 20% of the Earth's total land surface it is there, and it has 54 countries. So you can refer any world map about this. Okay, so the key geographical facts about this Africa in both northern and southern hemispheres. So through Africa, like equator passes through middle of the continent. So prime Mediterranean. So long longitude also passes through Africa. Okay, Africa is surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean west and Indian Ocean in the east and Mediterranean Sea in the north. So you have to remember when you go through this particular what is called when you have map you can check. So Africa is joined in Asia by Ithimas Suyaj. So this is the thing. Okay, let me just I'm zooming here. Okay, Africa's central position because equator passes through Africa. So much of the continent, the African continent is very hot and tropical climate. Sometimes it is called tropical continent. Okay, in the TET exam they may ask name the which continent is the tropical continent. You can say is Africa. So it passed the tropic Kansas passes through northern and tropic Capricorn through southern. Okay, Africa is also called as dark continent. So because the name from the past when the much of the interior was unexplored by the Europeans. Then we'll see one more thing: physical features of Africa. Like it has plateaus, then Sahara Desert, major rivers, mountains we have. So plateaus like Africa often called as plateau continent. So it is a much interior vast elevated plateau. So they just drop sharply through narrow coastal plains, forming the natural barriers to movement inland. Then Sahara Desert. Okay, this is also frequently asked even groups also. The Sahara is the world's largest hot desert, so it covers the North Africa. It spans almost 9 million square kilometers, so nearly size of the United States. So it is extremely dry, hot, and largely uninhabitable. That means people cannot be survive here. It is very difficult. The Sahara Desert. Then major rivers in Africa. The Nile, world's largest river. So it flows from the North Mediterranean. So the Congo flows through the rainforest. Then Zambezi flows over the Victoria Falls, one of the world's greatest waterfalls. So you have to remember. Then mountains. So the Atlas Mountain rises in northwest Africa, Morocco, Algeria, Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. The highest peak of Africa at 5895 meters are there. It is also dormant volcano. So you have to remember. So if you are unable to read, just have the headset, listen my classes, then that will be one of the repetition. Okay. Then climates in Africa. We already discussed the climates of Europe. Now the climates of Africa. Equatorial climate is there, then tropical savanna climate, then desert climate. It has three climates. Equatorial climates is found in the equator, Congo Basin, Guinea coast, hot and west throughout the year. Okay, with a heavy rainfall, almost 2000 mm annually. So supports a dense tropical rainforest. Temperature remains above 25 Celsius all the year. There's a equatorial climate, then tropical climate. So it's also called savanna climate. So found in the northern and south of the equatorial belt. So which has distinct wet and dry seasons. So wet season brings heavy rains and dry season very hot. Okay, the climate supported by the famous African grassland savanna. Okay, you have to remember the same. Then desert climate. Okay, so found in Sahara North and uh, Namib, Kalahari South. So extremely hot days with the cold nights and with very little rainfall, less than 25 mm per year. Africa is the hottest continent due to the tropical location. Okay, it seems to be reading the paragraph, but however, it is very important for the examination point of view. Okay, the climates of Africa: equatorial climate, tropical, that is a savanna climate, then desert climate. Then forest and wildlife. Let me zoom here. So tropical rain forest. It is a dense forest in Congo Basin with the enormous trees, lianas, and rich plant life. Receive rainfall all year. Then savanna grassland. It's a vast open grassland with the scattered trees like acacia, baobab. Then cover the largest Africa. Okay, then desert scrub. So spark thorny plants in the Sahara and Kalahari desert hedges. So these are the natural vegetation. Then we have the incredible wildlife in this Africa. So Africa is the most famous wildlife, the big five and many more. Lion fawn will find in savanna grassland in Africa, then elephant forest and uh, savanna, then giraffe, tallest animal on the earth. The giraffe will found in Africa, then zebra, so East African plains will find, then rhinoceros. So it is there. It is very endangerment. It is simply vanishing. Then crocodiles, which will found in rivers and lakes. So Africa's national parks like uh, Serengeti and Kruger, so world's famous for safaris and wildlife conservation. So you have to remember the national park Serengeti and Kruger. It's the world famous safaris for the wildlife conservation. Then we'll go to next about the population. So it is the second largest population continent and it is growing rapidly. Almost 1.4 billion total population is there in Africa. It consists of 54 independent countries and they have the rich, like incredible culture and different languages is there. It's a beautiful continent and almost 2000 plus languages as spoken in Africa. So it is a linguistically diverse continent with over like so many tribes are there and they speak 200 plus languages. Where do people live? So they unevenly distributed. So dense settle occurs along the river valleys like Nile Delta and Congo Basin. More population is there. Then coastal area and highland regions where water and fertile land soil available. So the Sahara and other desert area. So people won't live. It is almost empty in Sahara area. Then rural and tribal society. So a large proportion of Africa's population still lives in rural village. So many communities maintain the traditional tribal customs. However, rapid urbanization is changing. Cities like Lagos, Cairo, and Nairobi are growing very fast. This is about the population of Africa. 1.4 billion people are living. 54 countries are there. Almost 200 plus languages are spoken in this particular continent. So agriculture uh, in Africa, agriculture in Africa. I hope people are watching. Okay, what is the agriculture in Africa? Here, they like subsistence farming. So most farmers practice subsistence farming. That means growing just enough to feed their own, not for the commercial purpose, feed their families. And traditional, they use traditional hoes and plows still they use. So so surplus is very rarely they produce, only for their food purpose they use, and mainly they depend on rainfall. They don't have lot of canals and dams. Okay, so most of the African depend entirely on seasonal rains. Droughts and irregular rains often lead to crop failure and food shortage. Okay, even though they have lot of fertile land water, but there is no proper system is there. Irrigation infrastructure is very limited. So nowadays it is improving. So main crops in Europe, maize. Okay, the corn is produced. It is a staple food in East and Southern Africa. Then millet and sorghum, drought-resistant crops of dry region. Then cocoa, which is produced in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, and world's top producers. Coffee, so Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is the birthplace of coffee. So they may ask in the TET examination. Then cotton and groundnuts. So cash crops for export available here. This is about the agriculture picture in Africa. Just listen my class. So you will have the entire Europe and African information. So minerals and industries. We already discussed minerals in Europe. So what is the minerals available in it is Africa's wealth. So it's the richest continent. Okay, they have a lot of natural resources. So they have reserves of some of the world's most valuable minerals. So gold. Okay, nowadays it is very expensive. So South Africa is the leading producer in gold. Then diamonds. So Botswana, Congo, Sierra Leone. So this is a place. Then oil and natural gas we'll find in Nigeria, Libya, and Algeria. Then copper, Zambia, Congo. So it is a copper belt we can call it as uranium, Niger and Namibia. So it is there in uranium. Then platinum. So South Africa, world's largest reserves the platinum available in South Africa. Just remember, okay. Then industrial development. So even though they have many minerals, okay, but there is a less development is there compared with other parts of the world. So most of the minerals exported to the other countries like Europe and America and all the stuff. So why they have lack of development, like, because they have less capital. Okay, then poor infrastructure and technology. So most African exports raw materials, cheaply import expensive finished goods. So they reduce the economic growth. Then we'll check next this. Then transport in Africa. So so they use road transport. So it is less network is there. So like have very less rates they have. Cities have better roads. but connectivity between the regions is very poor. Then railways and rivers. So railways are largely built during the colonial area to transport mineral to up to the ports. So they do not connect well to the region internally. Major rivers like Congo and Nile are used for the transport in some regions. Then trade pattern. So Africa exports minerals, gold, oil, and diamond. You can check previous one. So raw material, agriculture products like cocoa and coffee. Africa imports machinery. So they exports uh, raw material and they import machinery, finished goods like manufacturing goods, medicine, technology. So so this is about the trade pattern and railways and road thing. Then let us discuss difference between Europe and Africa. So both continents is very important for the world. So they have the different geography, developed and different ways. Africa. So let us discuss these are the features, and these are the Europe, and this is about the Africa hemisphere. So Europe is in northern hemisphere, whereas Africa, northern and southern both. Then size, the smaller, only 10.5 million square kilometers. It is Africa is almost more than double, much larger, 30.3 million square kilometers are there. The temperature is mild, whereas the tropical equatorial desert, then land forms plain and mountains. It has a plateaus and deserts. There is Africa, this is Europe. Okay, let me have laser point here. Um, then just I'm zooming for like major land reforms we discussed. Then population, so dense, highly dense, urbanized in Europe, whereas the population uneven. Mostly in people lives in rural area. Agriculture in Europe is modern and mechanized, whereas African is traditional and subsistence. Then industry highly developed, less developed in Africa. Minerals, coal, iron, or petroleum, whereas Africa has minerals like gold, diamonds, oil, copper. They are very rich in mines. Then export machinery, vehicles, and chemicals from the Europe, where African exports like raw material and minerals, imports raw material and food, whereas Africa depends machinery and finished good from other countries. So the transport is well networked in European, whereas less developed in Africa. So this is the thing we learned about the of Europe and Africa. Europe is industry well developed, whether it is in agriculture, they have the excellent transport, high literacy rate, high standard of living. So vehicles manufacture everything, whereas Africa is rich in natural resources and minerals and wildlife and land. So but still it is developing. Okay, fastest growing continent, and they have the huge capacity to develop in the future. Then global impact, both the countries, both the continents are very important for the world economy. Europe leads the manufacturing trade, and Africa supplies the raw material, and it's the growing market. Together they shape our gold future life. So this content is prepared on the basis of Telangana SCERT textbooks. Okay, so let us have some of the MCQs here. Okay, already I tick mark the answers. Europe lies mainly in the so tropical zone, temperate zone, polar zone, desert zone. So the Europe mainly lies in temperate zone. So the longest river in Europe, is it Nile? Is it Danube? Is it Amazon? Is it Ganga? So the longest river in Europe, Danube. So the Sahara Desert in which continent? Asia, Africa, Europe, and Australia. The right answer is Africa. The darkest continent refers to Europe, Africa, Asia, or Australia. Africa. So major crop in Europe: rice, wheat, tea, or cotton. The wheat is the right answer. Africa is the richest in forest only, minerals, or ice or industries. The right answer is minerals. Which animals is found in Africa? Okay, which animal found in Africa? Kangaroo, lion, polar bear, penguin. So the right answer is lion found in the Africa. Europe is famous for deserts, industries, forests only, or tribes. The right answer is industry. The Nile River is in Europe, Africa, America, Australia. The right answer is Africa. Okay. Africa's mainly export what? Finished goods, raw material, technology, and machinery. The right answer is raw material. So this is a small presentation from my side. Uh, do subscribe and share with your friends. This is a great, like this is the only channel which gives entire content in English medium, where it is psychology, where it is related to the deputy DO or CTET or like B.Ed content, even for the English and law, everything is a single point of contact or single point of, it is a mini university. Thank you for watching Master's Teach. We'll meet with the next topic in social studies. Thank you. All the best.